is detected, we want to send an email, who should be the recipients. We can trigger, as we can now see it here in Teams, for example, a chat message to notify somebody. You have the possibility to attach a ticketing system, like for example, ServiceNow, where you can say, yes, I don't want to do any alerting on the Cloud ALM. All my ticketing is done on ServiceNow or another ticketing system, and then we can forward this. And it's also a two-way integration, so in case the ticket is then resolved, this will also be reported back into Cloud ALM, and you also have the direct linking here. So the idea, as said, is really to have here a central alerting and eventing capability to whatever the customer is using as a tool, maybe just reacting by email, just reacting on a chat message, sending it to Slack, so in the end, all possible integrations are possible. And then we would have the customer demo, and I mean, what we can at least try now, if your laptop is better than mine. No, it's better.
Okay, so my name is Tomáš Janeček, and I came from the company Tieto Every. And we wanted to share some use cases for SAP Cloud ALM health monitoring we have in our place. And yeah, let's see where it gets us. So first about us a little bit. We are providing SAP hosting and SAP basis services to our customers. We have, these are stats basically about the hosting we provide. That's not that important. The important part is that we are using SAP Focused Run as the primary monitoring tool. So every customer we have, every system they have, they are being monitored by SAP Focused Run. And that's fairly important for how we use or offer to customers SAP Cloud ALM. Our customers obviously know about SAP Cloud ALM. They read about it, hear about it, they want to start to try use it. And we have implemented basically all the scenarios from operations part from SAP Cloud ALM there is. And how about the use case? The thing is that we do not allow our customers access our SAP Focused Run for many perfectly good reasons, but they still need some kind of visibility because the key user on customer side is the first person to respond to any complaints about performance or some issues, whatever. If there is an issue in the system, obviously we will know about it from our monitoring, but the customer team, customer SAP team, they still need to have some means to check whether everything is okay and basically to see whether there is an issue or whether the issue is on end user side. Obviously, Solution Manager was always the way to go, but we all know that Solution Manager might be challenging for some customers. Quite many of our customers is fairly large, and when it comes to, for example, 600 plus diagnostic agents, it starts to be a little bit problematic, and you are basically then just maintaining the monitoring just for the visibility. Solution Manager is coming to an end, so we were looking for some solution, and also system monitoring as it is in Solution Manager is fairly easy to implement, but when it comes to something more complex, then it takes a lot of time. So what we use for customers is SAP Cloud ALM and basically specifically health monitoring. What we like about health monitoring, and I will show it to you in a demo in a while, is that it does not really flood customers with too many metrics. From my perspective, the amount of metrics that you can see there is absolutely perfect for the scenario we are in. Customer is usually not that interested in some really low-level stuff. They need to see that users are connecting, that the response times are okay, that the system is running. And yeah, even the alerting now is completely covered. So it's getting better all the time. And for example, the metric ABAP is not available in health monitoring, but it's not a big concern for our customers because that's covered by our SAP Focused Run. And it's not usually something they need to handle or notify us about. What is really great is the options how to propagate the alert information to customers if they are interested in it. Emails are obvious solution for some like starting projects, but we also have direct integration with ServiceNow, and on Friday we have implemented integration with MS Teams. It took like 5 minutes. I really go try it. It's really super easy. For me, personally, what is important about monitoring is not only how it's configured, but how available it is to you. These screenshots are from my super cheap mobile phone and were created on our internal SAP Cloud ALM. So even without access to VPN, without any special device, the customer, the end user can, or the key user can go check whether everything is okay. If he is traveling, whatever, the accessibility is there. Since SAP Cloud ALM is running in cloud, that's not an issue. The integration with SAP Universal ID is also great because then you can invite quite many people into the team and everybody gets the availability or accessibility to SAP Cloud ALM and they can be involved in the monitoring process. The second use case we have is to monitor our monitoring system. So we are basically guarding the guard. SAP Focused Run is monitoring itself, obviously, but in case of any issues, we might be missing something somewhere. And also, our SAP Focused Run is behind quite many firewalls. It's not accessible to everyone, everywhere. And when, for example, I, who am responsible for Focused Run, am here in Mannheim, it really helps me to have an option to go and check whether the system is okay, whether changes we have implemented last week are still like performing as expected. Yes. So, do we have time for live demo?
I would say yes,
okay,
because
cool.
Otherwise, if we have again problems with my side, at least they could have seen it live, which is
okay. So I'm not able to show you customer SAP Cloud ALM. That wouldn't be okay, but I can show you our internal one. And since we are focused on health monitoring here, so let's go to health monitoring. Wait for it. It's coming. It's coming. Okay, so SAP Focused Run, let's check it out. And this is what I meant by the perfect. No, this is what I meant by the perfect amount of metrics that I need to see. I don't want to have a screen flooded with 5,000 metrics, because in Focused Run, we do monitor hundreds to thousands of metrics per system. Here is just the perfect fit. I can see that users are logging in because there are some work processes used, so it's okay. I can see the response time is okay. And I see there was a short dump today, important thing. I've already checked it in integration exception monitoring. That's out of the scope here, but I know that it's not a problem. And I can, for example, check the HANA allocated memory, which is basically one of the main factors we monitor on SAP Focused Run. And let's see how it evolves over time. Yeah, so I have very easy accessibility to these data. On the mobile phone, it works exactly the same. The screen is smaller, but otherwise it's exactly the same. So the accessibility is, for me, the best thing about that. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. I have 2 more slides about just generally some things I really like, because you have heard on quite many sessions here that SAP Cloud ALM is easy to implement and everything. So this is my external, unbiased observation of how long it really takes. So you click on the deployment link, and it takes actually around 2 hours. So you can go for lunch. You can do it on Monday when you come back from ALM Summit. So it takes 2 hours for SAP to deploy SAP Cloud ALM. It might be faster. This is what we have seen. Then you basically need to go through some initial configuration. That's task for approximately 1 hour. You need to deal with identity providers and stuff like that. You need to create users or assign some roles to it. So it's 1 hour of work. We are using this to monitor on-prem systems. So we have to check that STPI is on some reasonable version. It usually is, so it's not a problem. Then you need exactly 2 nodes to implement to STPI corrections. 30 minutes, I think it's reasonable time. And then you can just connect your on-prem system to SAP Cloud ALM. So altogether, if you start around lunch, by 3 p.m. you should be ready, connected, and you can start using it. Then, of course, you need to play with thresholds, alerts, notifications, but that comes later. But this is a real life situation. It's not some marketing materials. It really is as fast. And last thing, when we were implementing this, we found out, or it was told to us, that if we use 8 gigabytes of memory, then SAP Cloud ALM is paid for, actually. And we were always concerned, and our customers are concerned as well. Is this going to be an issue? Is this something we will run into immediately? So it depends on what configuration you have. But what I really like is the way the data is housekept. So in health monitoring, I can access SAP Cloud ALM and see how much memory is actually used. In my case, it's 4.5 gigabytes. If I click on it, I will immediately see which scenario is using how much memory. That helps me fairly quickly navigate to whatever needs my attention. And then if I decide that, for example, real user monitoring data or health monitoring data I do not need in such granularity or for so much time, I can just change these values, save it, and it's done. Tomorrow, the amount of data will decrease. So that's another really important fact for me, that we are not pushing our customers to something they will have to pay for later, that they really have tools how to handle this, and everything works just out of the box, just like that. That's it. Okay. And that is the cable file.
So let me try again. Change a little bit resolution, and hopefully this is done better. No. Okay. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the scope. So what products do we support in health monitoring? I mean, if this is constantly expanding over time. If you were here last year, you will recognize that some things were added newly. For example, Cloud Connector is something we have added newly, and apparently just changing the resolution did not solve the situation. Yeah, not going too much into the details, you will always find the latest information about the supported products in the expert portal, and also in the what's new section of Cloud ALM, we will also tell you if something new is coming here. Yeah, a little bit into the details. I will not have I guess I don't have the time now to go into all the details, but just a glimpse what we all support here. So, for example, we have for on-premise systems, S/4HANA Business Suite. Yeah, it's the traditional system monitoring, like Tomasz has shown. It's easily integrated because we are not using agents anymore. So it makes the managed system setup much easier than before, right? I mean, it's where how many steps do we have in Solution Manager for the managed system setup? In attaching now an ABAP system to Cloud ALM is in the end just making sure you have the latest version or a new version of SDPI, which you typically anyway should have. If you're already using Solution Manager, you maintain the destination to Cloud ALM, you say which use cases you want to have, and then it starts sending data to Cloud ALM. That's it in the end. And this makes the setup also much more easy. And as we've seen by Tomasz, so the most important information is collected. It's also being based on customer feedback constantly extended. So typically we get requests from customer, I'm missing, for example, one of the last examples was they wanted to have information about number ranges, which number ranges are filled up or almost filled up. Can we monitor this? So this we have added. So that's why it's also always useful to have the latest version of SDPI. So this is the things, these new capabilities we built into the new SDPI. You implement a new SDPI version, and then these new metrics are sent additionally. So it's nothing much you have to do in the end. We have also for S/4HANA Cloud and for SAP Business Suite, this being monitored. It's quite similar to the content which we have for on-premise systems. As this is operated by SAP, you will. Now it went back. It's not updating anymore. Oh, it's slowly updating. Okay, I see. see something different than you do. Okay. Is this with the clicker then, or? Okay. Yep. Okay, thank you. So this means I cannot do a live demo, unfortunately, but yeah, I should have screenshots at least. Let's then continue like this. So where were we? Here we were. Integration suite, I have mentioned. Here we are monitoring JMS queues. We can monitor certificates if they are expired. Same for API management. We have a BTP Neo environment where customers can also have their own applications running. So here we have also, therefore, information about CPU load, memory of your applications or of your BTP. Sorry, now I'm confused. It's another. Okay, I changed. You have another. Yeah, you have another sequence than I have here. Therefore, yeah. Now the clicker doesn't react anymore. Okay, I'm in presentation hell today. Okay, BTP Neo environment. Yes. Yeah, BTP Neo environment. Here, this is typically these are Java applications which you deploy in BTP Neo. If you're still using the BTP Neo, typically most customers are moving to Cloud Foundry. So here we are really talking about your own deployed applications. So you will have information about application status, response time, CPU load, memory, and so on, as these are your own applications. Here we had an API from Neo, which we could use to pull the information regularly. Now the clicker is gone. Okay. Okay, next one is Cloud Foundry. So this is something which we had new since last year. So here the issue was in the end Cloud Foundry did not provide such an API like we had for BTP Neo. So what we did is we have now this usage of OpenTelemetry, which Janko has shown. So as we do not have a direct API where we could pull metrics from Cloud Foundry like we could for BTP Neo, still customers, of course, want to know, I have now my Java applications deployed, Node.js applications deployed. How are they running? What is the CPU system, CPU utilization, memory utilization? So we have now this OpenTelemetry approach. So OpenTelemetry is in the end an open standard for collecting metrics, log files, and traces, and is open source. And there are already many products which support OpenTelemetry. And as Cloud Foundry is also an open platform in the end, this is also supported here. So what you have to do is to, if you deploy the applications, we have a library which we provide as a standard library, which you just have to embed into your applications. You don't have to program anything. You just have to say, yes, just load this API. In the end, it's one line which you have to maintain in the YAML file of your applications. And then you have to create also a destination to Cloud ALM in your sub-account. And then the applications are starting to send these OpenTelemetry metrics to Cloud ALM. So, and by this we get then standard metrics, for example, about CPU usage, memory utilization, response time, number of threads, and so on, without having you to program anything. So this is coming out of the standard. And we are currently building and extending this. So also we are, in the end, also enriching this information that we say, yes, we combine the metrics of the current memory usage and the maximum memory usage so that we can really calculate what is the current usage. I'm already at 100%, 90%, that we can define thresholds so that you don't have to say, now I have different applications and one application has 2 GB, the other has 4 GB limit. You just say, if it's above 95%, give me an error message. And we have this knowledge and build it into this library to say, yes, in OpenTelemetry, these metrics about the limit, about the current usage are separate metrics, and we bring this together to make this also easier consumable. And also we are doing currently some kind of filtering that we only present the most useful information. Because if you enable OpenTelemetry, you get by default 250 metrics back, we analyzed it, and I would say 80% is not really useful for somebody. As I said, it's open source. It's sometimes built by developers for developers. So somebody's putting it inside. And we are really here, we do a whitelisting here, what is really necessary. We also provide documentation. We transform the technical names to readable names, make them also translatable, and so on. So it's a big effort we are doing here. As I said, we have this now for Java applications and for Node.js applications. And by default, you get all these metrics here. You have also the possibility to say, if you're using this library, you instrument your own code. So if you say now you have an application running and you want to monitor something on top, which is not coming from here, for example, you want to have the number of sales orders created, or the number of objects in the shopping cart, or the number of shopping carts created, you can instrument in your code to have some counters, for example, which you then, whenever something is created, you just count up, and then this can also be collected via Cloud ALM. So this is the strategy to go there, and as said, we currently started with Java and Node.js applications on Cloud Foundry, and we are also going to extend this to other products in the future. Also with the idea to say, in the end, this could even be third-party information where we can then get information inside. This is also documented on the expert portal. There you will also find information how you can integrate this library. Now I need the next slide again. It's not working. Okay. BTP ABAP environment, here you can also have your own applications running. So here it's we have also a little bit of information about memory, CPU utilization. Here we are talking about this compute unit and HANA compute unit, so it's a little bit abstracted, but you see in the end the information, how much is it being used. Cloud Connector is something which we have integrated newly. Cloud Connector is also, I mean, on Janko's slides, it still says we only support ABAP, but we also support Cloud Connector as on-premise systems. It's also important with the communication with on-premise systems. And here we get information about, is the Cloud Connector available? That's hard to read. The sub-accounts, are they all connected? Are some sub-accounts disconnected? Is something that's not working? You have information about the memory of the Cloud Connector. You have information about the certificates. You can see how many active connections do I have, how many backend calls do I have per backend, so to have an idea what is being used, what is not being used. And this is one of the new features which we have built. Then we have built process automation and IRPA. Here it's mainly about monitoring the number of jobs which are running in such an environment, and also these agents which we have running there. We have HANA Cloud. Also, HANA Cloud is a little bit platform as a service, right? It's your database. You want to monitor what is the memory usage here, what is the CPU usage here, how many connections do we have, how many transactions are running, how many reads, writes, and so on. And also integration of the HANA alerts which are available. We have, as for HANA Cloud, IBP and Marketing Cloud in the end, also similar to an on-premise system, but with a limited user. So in contrast to an on-premise system, we don't give details into the host, so you will not know on which host it is running with which CPU utilization, but at least you know, because it's operated by SAP, you could anyway not change anything here, right? So, but we show you here, how much is going on the system, how many users do I have, how many work processes are running, do we have expired certificates, what is the memory usage of HANA, what are my top tables in HANA, and so on, and this gives you still a possibility to monitor here. And then we have also Cloud ALM itself to have some kind of self-monitoring. This is the thing which Tomasz has shown, where we show, for example, what is the HANA memory size of Cloud ALM itself. So you want to know how much memory do I use in Cloud ALM, and then you can see it here on top. If you click on it, you will see in details which applications are using it. And if you then go into the history, you will also see per day which application took how much memory, where do I have an increase, decrease, is my aggregation settings which I have set up, is this working, and cleaning up the memory as intended. Let's a little bit talk about the configuration. So here we have already some changes, and also still some changes are planned. So what we currently have is that we provide some standard content. So we have in the end for the supported product some kind of content which has information about what metrics do we have, metric description, so what is this metric about, what can you do. We have the display settings for metrics, so this defines in the end how is it displayed in a card, in which section is it displayed, what should be the default behavior when I click it, do I want to have it sorted by value, ascending, descending, or by status. So this is all in the content, and can therefore also be changed by us and easily then also distributed to customers if we have then any issues. What is new is that we also have the possibility to provide threshold settings. So this was just introduced 2 weeks ago, so that we can say also in the standard content from our side, yes, for example, certificate validity, it should be give a warning if it's below 7 days. If it's below 30 days, it gives a warning. If it's below 7 days, it gets critical, so that you don't have to set this up manually. And nevertheless, you still have the possibility to change it. Right? This is just a recommendation from us, which you will see in the configuration. It's hard to see, but you see that the first one has a threshold and SAP icon. And then you can go inside and see it. We have also then in the description of the metric, you see here, I have the possibility to change it then. You see then who has changed it, when was it changed. You also have the possibility to say you go back to the standard. So this is then the threshold settings which we push out, and also we have a central content for the events and the metric assignment. And on the threshold side, so what you can do, what kind of thresholds you can define. You can influence the status of a metric. Typically, it's something you don't have to do. Mostly, you will change really thresholds based on the value on the usage, so that you say, yes, if this memory is above 1 gigabyte, I want to have an error. Or if the usage of the memory is above 90%, I want to have an error. These are the typical use cases where you can define thresholds on. Then we have the alerting configuration. So as I said, we have the possibility to create alerts, send emails, start operation flows, create ServiceNow tickets, and have chat integrations. And we provide in the end in the configuration a list of events which we support. And then you can say for each of these events what you want to have. So you can say, yes, I want to have an alert. I want to send an email to one or multiple receivers. I want to start an operation flow in case this event is happening. And as Patrick has shown in his presentation, this will also be extended from the configuration that we have also in the future additional capabilities to say you get, for example, also a reminder email if the alert is opened too long, if it's not resolved, or that you can say also perhaps you can delay an alert or whatever. So this is also going to be extended. What we also have changed, but this has also been already shown by Tomasz, so this data retention time. So we have the possibility to now say, on one hand side, you can influence how long do you want to keep the data. I mean, we always get the question, yes, we have this 8 gigabyte limit. How can I influence this? Is it only based on the number of systems? As I said before, we send all the metrics we have in the end, so there is no filtering capability so far. But what you can at least influence is how long you keep the data. So, and you can define on your own. So we have the 3 settings here. We have the retention time for the raw data. So we say, for example, by default, this is 30 days. So this means in the end, in this setting here, from today until the last 30 days, we have really raw data, depending on the data collection, every 5 minutes. In case of Cloud Foundry, if you use the library, every minute even. And then you can say after whatever you maintain here, this is then aggregated to hourly data. So you will not see the raw data anymore. But you would still want to have a trend, for example, right? So, and therefore you can say, if you have a high usage, for example, you can say you put this from 30 days to 7 days. I mean, if you want to, the really detailed 5 minutes information, you may perhaps only need for root cause analysis. For the other longer time frames, it may be sufficient to you to have hourly data, so you can maintain this, and then, of course, the raw data then is getting smaller. Then we have a time where you can maintain when this is aggregated to daily data. So will also give you the possibility to have really also a long-term history. And then after the last entry here, the data is really being deleted. And we have here in the configuration also a view where we show, yes, how many data are we using, how much raw data do I use, how many hourly data, how much daily data. And it's clear also that the hourly and daily data is typically much smaller than the raw data. And if you click on the details, you will even see by which systems or services this memory is being used. So you will also have a table which is showing you which system and services mostly contributing to this memory size. And if you really want to say, yes, I want to get rid of this system, you could then delete it, and then also the data is being deleted. So this gives you the possibility to influence a little bit the memory being used by health monitoring Cloud ALM. Okay, then we have APIs. So this is also something we extended. So we have, on one hand side, an analytics API, which is giving you aggregated metrics from health monitoring. So you get, you can say, for example, I want to have the memory of the last 7 days in an hourly aggregate, and this will then be provided by this API. Can then be used also in conjunction with Analytics Cloud or Grafana if you want to build your own dashboard. So you could also even feed this into another tool, in your own tool. And what we have now also new is this, regarding this open telemetry, we have also an outbound API that we can say we forward these metrics in an open telemetry format to another tool which is supporting open telemetry. And also inbound, if you have a third-party tool, that we have the possibility to say, yes, we get information from a third-party tool as in an open telemetry format and get it into health monitoring. Here's an example. This I wanted to show live, but unfortunately, yes, not today. So here's an example of a Grafana dashboard. So in the end, the same information which we have in health monitoring, you can then use to build such a Grafana dashboard. And all the things you see here on the top, this is an example from Cloud Foundry. This here is an example from HANA Cloud. So you see here, I don't know if you can read it, this is the memory utilization of the last 30 days of HANA Cloud instances. Here we have the disk usage. Here we have the number of connections, and this gives you the possibility to, on one hand side, define your own dashboards, and also to give other users sometimes access to data which you have in Cloud ALM. This is also a use case which is often asked, can I show this to somebody else, but this has not a user in Cloud ALM, so it's also something you could use to expose data. And yeah, the planned features, what we'll be working on. Default thresholds in standard content, as said, has been shipped 2 weeks ago, is even already available. One of the next features which we're going to provide is that we want to provide links to external tools so that we can say, yes, as I mentioned, I mean, we want to have central monitoring capabilities. We don't want to replace all the tools, so that you can say, for example, from the metrics which you see in BTP Cloud Foundry, I want to jump now to the BTP cockpit of this sub-account. Or I want to log on to the cloud integration service from the monitoring data. And whenever possible, we even provide this then also context sensitively. That we say, yes, we have a memory metric, or we have the number of, so we have the number of expired certificates, and then we can jump into S/4HANA Cloud into the certificate management. So really context-sensitive links to external tools. Availability checks. I guess this is something which many of you have asked already. It's not so easy anymore because we are working agentless, and this means in the end, if you want to now ping if an ABAP system is available, we ping from HANA Cloud, from Cloud ALM, and who has now his ERP system available to be pinged from the internet? Raise your hands. Yeah, it's not so easy, as said. So we don't have we are agentless, which makes it also easy to set it up, right? We could now say, yes, we make agents again, we make it more complicated. This is what we don't want to do. So we are currently investigating what we can do. So the The first implementation is for the ABAP system, so everything which is pushing data, is that we say we are providing some kind of heartbeat, so the system is sending additional to the metrics. Every 1 minute, a heartbeat metrics, just a dummy metrics, I'm still available, and if this is not coming in handy anymore, we can then create an alert. So, of course, this will not solve all the solutions, because not sending data can also have other reasons than the ABAP system not being available. So this will be a first step. And we will also provide a possibility to actively ping custom URLs, so that you say, yes, I have my custom applications running. I know a URL where I can check if the application is up and running. I maintain this URL, and then we ping it every minute from Cloud ALM. And then at least for the cloud component, you can have an availability. We could also discuss if we can then say, yes, I open at least the ping URL via the cloud connector, and then I could also ping the ABAP system. But of course, this would be an additional manual effort. What we have on the long-term agenda for next year is that we also need the possibility to create custom metrics and alerts. So custom alerts is something which is already asked quite often, because we, as I said, in the content we provide standard events. Sometimes events, some customer says, I want to have other events. They can ask us, we will create them. This takes some time, so it would be nice if the customer also has the possibility to do it on his own, if he wants to have these events differently than we provide them. And also custom metrics is important if you want to support with OpenTelemetry and third-party systems. This needs to be also somehow documented by the customer. What is this technical? You will get technical KPIs. You have to say, what is this about? How should it be displayed? The same as we have in our standard content. So because we cannot provide standard content for everything which you will have as third-party systems. And then a big topic will be mass configuration of versions and alerts. If you want to say, I have now 20 BTP sub-accounts where I have my applications running. I have 10 HANA Cloud instances which I want to monitor. You don't want to monitor them one by one. It would be good if you can have some kind of default settings which is applied to all by default, similar like the templates and system monitoring. But if we build this, then the next will come, but on this I want to have it differently. So it has to be, in the end, also will be also a big effort on the configuration side to make this to be configured as easy as possible, but still with all the capabilities. We will work on integrated dashboards so that we don't have to use always Grafana dashboards, so that we have also as standard dashboards in the application some views already, and also integration of exception monitoring is, I guess, important. For example, for ABAP systems, for your on-premise systems, you want to see the short terms, you want to see the system log entries, what we typically can get in exception monitoring, and so therefore we also want to have the best possibility to integrate this also into health monitoring where it fits. Or another example is also BTP Cloud Foundry, where you can get error logs, which you also want to see here. Yes, you can Twitter and X, whatever, if you want.